What if I told you that the most charismatic people in the room aren't born that way? They're just running a better operating system. You know those people, the ones who walk into a room and somehow the whole temperature changes. They're not better looking, they're not smarter, they just know something you don't. Here are 10 psychology-backed tricks that'll upgrade yours. Trick number 1, the high-value pause. Picture this, you're in a job interview. The interviewer asks, "What's your greatest weakness?" And before they've even finished the sentence, you're already talking. Words are tumbling out of your mouth like luggage off a carousel. "I'm a perfectionist, I care too much, sometimes I work too hard," and the interviewer's eyes glaze over because they've heard this exact monologue 400 times today. Now picture candidate number 2. Same question, but instead of launching into a verbal sprint, they pause. Just 3 seconds of nothing. Then they lean forward slightly and say, "I used to take on too much because I didn't trust anyone else to do it right. I've been learning to let go." Same content, completely different energy. Here's the psychology. When you pause before speaking, your brain signals to the listener that what's coming next is considered, deliberate, worth waiting for. Rushed answers signal anxiety. Pauses signal authority. The trick? Next time someone asks you something important, count to 3 in your head before you open your mouth. That silence? It's not awkward. It's power. Speaking of power moves, trick number 2, the name game. Dale Carnegie said it decades ago. A person's name is, to that person, the sweetest sound in any language. And neuroscience backed him up. Hearing your own name activates the left prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain associated with self-identity and self-representation. Your name literally lights up your brain. But here's where people mess it up. They either never use your name, "Hey man, buddy, dude," or they use it so much it sounds like they're reading from a hostage negotiation manual. "So, Sarah, tell me, Sarah, what do you think about that, Sarah?" The sweet spot is 2 to 3 times in a conversation. Once near the beginning, it shows you were paying attention during introductions. Once in the middle, anchored to something meaningful they said. And once at the end, it makes the goodbye feel personal. The trick? Use their name when you agree with them. That's a really good point, Marcus. It pairs their identity with a positive emotion. Sneaky? Sure. Effective? Absolutely. Now, trick number 3 is one you're already doing. You just don't know it. Trick number 3, mirroring. Okay. Imagine the worst first date of your life. You're sitting across from someone and everything is off. They lean back, you lean forward. They're talking slow, you're talking fast. It feels like you're having 2 different conversations in 2 different time zones. Now imagine the date turns around, and you don't even know why. They uncross their arms, and a minute later, you do too. They take a sip of water, you reach for your glass. The conversation starts flowing. You leave thinking, wow, we just clicked. You didn't click. You mirrored. Mirroring is the unconscious imitation of someone's posture, gestures, and speech patterns. Psychologists call it the chameleon effect, and it triggers a deep sense of rapport because our brains interpret similar body language as, "This person is like me. They're safe." The trick? Don't copy someone move for move like a mime. That's terrifying. Instead, match their general energy. If they're relaxed, relax. If they lean in a beat later. Subtlety is everything. And if subtlety is the secret weapon of mirroring, trick number 4 is the exact opposite. Trick number 4, the pratfall effect. In 1966, psychologist Elliot Aronson ran an experiment where people listened to a quiz show contestant answer nearly every question correctly. Impressive, sure, but then the contestant spilled coffee all over themselves. And here's the twist. People liked the coffee spiller more than the flawless version. Why? Because competence plus a small blunder makes you relatable. It makes you human. Perfection is intimidating. A little imperfection? That's an invitation. Think about the CEO who trips on stage at the company all hands, laughs it off, and somehow has the whole room eating out of their hand for the next 30 minutes. That stumble didn't undermine their authority. It made them approachable. But there's a catch. The pratfall effect only works if you've already established competence. If you haven't proven you know what you're doing, spilling coffee just looks like you can't hold a cup. The trick, once you've shown you're capable, let a small imperfection through. Mispronounce a word and laugh about it. Admit you forgot something obvious. Give people permission to like you. Now, trick 5 is about a skill most people think they have, but almost nobody actually does. Trick number 5, active listening theater. Here's a test. Think about the last conversation you had. Were you actually listening, or were you just waiting for your turn to talk? Be honest. Because most people are running a background script that sounds something like, okay, they're talking about their vacation. When they stop, I'll mention my vacation, which was better. That's not listening, that's reloading. Real listening looks different. It sounds different. The person who's truly listening doesn't just nod. They respond to what was actually said, not what they wanted you to say, not what they were going to say anyway, what you actually said. Psychologists call this active listening, and it involves 3 things: paraphrasing what someone said back to them, asking follow-up questions that prove you were tracking, and resisting the urge to redirect the conversation back to yourself. The trick: after someone finishes talking, don't respond with your own story. Instead say, wait, what happened next? Or, how did that make you feel? Watch their face change. You might be the first person who's ever actually asked. Trick 6 is genuinely counterintuitive. Ready? Trick number 6, the Ben Franklin effect. Ben Franklin had a political rival, a guy who genuinely did not like him. Instead of trying to charm the man, or avoid him, Franklin did something weird. He sent a letter asking to borrow a rare book from the man's library. The rival said yes. Franklin returned it with a thank you note, and from that point on, the guy was noticeably warmer toward Franklin. Eventually, they became friends. This is the Ben Franklin effect. When you do someone a favor, your brain rationalizes the effort by deciding you must like them. Because why would you help someone you don't like? The cognitive dissonance resolves in favor of affection. Most people think the way to make someone like you is to do favors for them. It's actually the reverse. Get them to do a small favor for you. The trick? Ask to borrow something small. A pen, a book recommendation, directions. The ask creates a micro-investment, and people tend to protect their investments. Alright, trick 7. This one's a fine line between magnetic and genuinely unsettling. Trick number 7. Eye contact calibration. There is a canyon of difference between eye contact that makes someone feel seen and eye contact that makes someone feel hunted. The research says the sweet spot is about 60 to 70% of the conversation. That means you're looking at them most of the time, but you break away naturally, glancing at your hands, the table, the middle distance, enough that it feels organic, not interrogative. Too little eye contact reads as disinterested or untrustworthy. Too much reads as intense, controlling, or like you're trying to win a staring contest no one else signed up for. Here's the nuance most people miss. Hold eye contact while the other person is talking. That's when it matters most. When you're the one speaking, you can look away more freely. That pattern signals, I'm absorbing what you're saying when they talk, and I'm thinking carefully when you talk. The trick? Focus on one eye at a time. It feels more natural than trying to look at both. And if you lose count, default to looking at them when they're making a point they care about. You'll feel the moment. Trick 8 is pure energy. Trick number 8. Enthusiasm is contagious. True story. A man on a New York City subway, a place famous for aggressive eye contact avoidance, stands up and starts talking about a sandwich he just ate. Not yelling, not performing, just genuinely, infectiously enthusiastic about this sandwich. The bread, the sauce, the specific ratio of meat to cheese. Within 2 minutes, 3 strangers are asking where the shop is. One person is literally taking notes. By the next stop, half the car is discussing sandwiches. This is emotional contagion. Psychologist Elaine Hatfield found that people unconsciously mirror the emotional states of those around them. Your enthusiasm doesn't just express your feelings, it actually transfers them. If you're excited, the people around you start to feel excited. If you're flat, they go flat too. The trick? You don't need to be loud, you need to be specific. This project is going to be great is forgettable. I can't stop thinking about the way this one feature is going to change the onboarding flow. Now I'm curious. Which brings us to trick 9, my personal favorite. Trick number 9, the power of specificity. Hey, nice job on that presentation. Forgettable. You'll remember it for about 11 seconds. Now try this. The way you paused after that revenue slide and just let the number sit there. That was the moment the whole room leaned in. You felt it too, didn't you? That's the kind of compliment people think about in the shower 3 weeks later. Specificity is a signal of attention. When you notice something specific about someone, their work, their outfit, their idea, You're telling them, I was paying close enough attention to see the thing most people miss. And that is a rare experience. Vague praise is wallpaper. Specific praise is a spotlight. The trick: when you want to compliment someone, identify the precise moment or detail that impressed you. Not, you're a great speaker. Instead, the story you told about your grandmother, the detail about the yellow kitchen, that's what made it land. The more specific you are, the longer it lives in their memory. Last one, and it might be the most important. Trick number 10. Exit on a high. Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman discovered something called the peak end rule. People don't judge an experience by the average of every moment. They judge it by two things: the most intense moment and the ending. Which means you could have a perfectly mediocre dinner party. Lukewarm food, awkward small talk, someone brought bad wine. But if the host walks everyone out with a personal goodbye and a genuinely funny parting line, that's what people remember. The ending rewrites the whole experience. Most people let conversations and events just fizzle out. They drift toward the door, mutter something about doing this again sometime, and leave on a deflating note. Charismatic people don't do that. They close with intention. The trick: have a go-to exit line that leaves energy in the room, something specific to the conversation. I'm going to be thinking about that book recommendation all week is infinitely better than, okay, well, see ya. Make the last 30 seconds the best 30 seconds. People will remember you for it. So there they are, 10 tricks, 10 upgrades to the operating system. The high-value pause, the name game, mirroring, the pratfall effect, active listening, the Ben Franklin effect, eye contact, enthusiasm, specificity, and the exit. Charisma isn't a personality type. It's a practice. Now go be dangerously likable.